Super Typhoon Mawar still powerful and heading west on tonight's tropical weather bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for May 27th. Well, it's been a fair while since we last had a tropical weather bulletin. It's good to be back, and we are still code red for Typhoon Mawar, an extremely powerful Category 4 storm now, just shy of Category 5 status after it held it for so long, peaking with winds of at least 180 miles per hour yesterday, an extremely intense storm. It's only 5 days until hurricane season, and this is what the Atlantic looks like right now. A little area there off the US southeast region that the NHC I think still have marked as a 10%. It will be interesting to see what happens with that. There will be a cyclonic feature out of that, but it shouldn't be tropical. Day 13 in the eastern Pacific, and this is what we're looking at here. Intertropical convergence zone, throwing up a few little disturbances there, but nothing that's really potent, or at least has any potential to become a tropical cyclone. So it's a pretty quiet start there. Super Typhoon Mawar ensures that the Western Pacific doesn't begin quietly. There it is, still edging westwards, or more than edging actually. It's about 18 miles per hour its movement westwards, heading slowly towards the Philippines. No other areas of interest around the world right now. That's the Indian Ocean and the Southern Hemisphere. Nothing active over there. It really is all about this major typhoon that's taking up center stage in the Philippine Sea. We expect that watches and warnings or equivalent will start to get issued in the Philippines over the course of today if they haven't already, and this is wide imagery of the whole world there. Look out for any of those red zones, mainly across tropical Africa actually, where those highest rain rates are in those red zones. Well, here's some close-up rapid scan imagery of Mawar this morning, and it still looks extremely intense on the visible satellite image, but there's a super close-up, a pinwheel effect going on in that eye there, but that's not the full story. The infrared will show that the eye wall has weakened quite a bit since yesterday, but it is still showing quite a lot of power. There is some more visible imagery, the true color, and now onto some of the infrared views, and you can quite clearly see that pinwheel effect inside the eye on the rainbow imagery here too, but you'll see now on some of the more other infrared enhancements, this one perhaps, that you'll see that the northwestern and northern side of the eye wall is really taking a hammering there, and is getting quite weak and faded, possibly due to an eye wall replacement cycle. Now the south and southeastern side still looking okay there, but on this view quite clearly shows that there is a significant gap there in the northwestern quadrant and another one in the northeastern side as well. So the storm has been struggling a little bit, but it is still holding on to a 16-degree eye, and that will show it in good stead moving forward still. Sea surface temperatures in the eastern Pacific are piping hot in the main area of formation south of the coast of Mexico. Temperatures well above 30 degrees Celsius, and same too off the coast of Cuba now. A few areas there popping up above 30 degrees Celsius. Gulf of Mexico has warmed drastically in the last week, as has the Gulf Stream. Temperatures really getting up now towards the 30 range in the Caribbean. Indian Ocean, it's the Arabian Sea that's really taking up those temperatures now, 32 degrees, possibly even higher in some parts of the Arabian Sea. Bay of Bengal still lacking a little bit after Cyclone Mocha. Southwest Indian Ocean is still trailing away now, of course, as we leave the cyclone season behind in this region. And in the Australian region, a similar picture being painted here. Most of the coast of Australia now underneath 26 degrees Celsius waters now, except for the extremities. And in the South Pacific, things starting to calm down a little bit there as well. The 26-degree isotherm extending only as far as New Caledonia, but a few warm spots there as well. Philippine Sea, very warm, getting up to above 32 degrees there off Samar, and over the rest of the Philippine Sea almost that high as well, really strong conditions ahead of Typhoon Mawar until it gets close to Taiwan. You can see on the anomalies here, it's quite cool anomalies in the subtropical zones, which will mean that Mawar will be up against it very much so by the time it gets to those higher latitudes. Elsewhere though, the Eastern Pacific well above average there, the El Nino effect coming into play, and the Atlantic, Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico well above average after that big warm-up that we've seen in the last week or so. For the first time, we're looking at the oceanic heat content in the Atlantic, and you can see that the Caribbean is raring to go already there in the western part of the Caribbean Sea. Eastern Pacific has a few warm spots there as well, and look at that massive area of extremely high oceanic heat content over there in the Philippine Sea, just a little bit off the, not quite where Mawar is, just a little bit to the south of it. Here is the storm though on the GFS model, and it suggests that the storm will remain very powerful, a very gradual slope downwards on that weakening trend. By the time we get to the 30th of May, it's down to category 3. By the 31st, it's down to category 2 towards the end of that 5-day period when it's parallel to the coast of Taiwan, well towards the east there, but its increasing wind field will mean that tropical storm force winds could impact the whole region from the northeastern part of Luzon up through the islands in the strait there towards the southeastern coast of Taiwan within the next 3 days, so look out for that. Rainfall estimates: if the storm's track shifts west, it would be very bad news, but as it stands right now, it does look like it will stay further east, and we will probably see a partial recurve and then maybe turning the storm back west again. But rainfall in the next 7 days, let's not look any further than that if we're being serious here. We're looking at actually quite high rainfall amounts on the western side of Luzon, possibly getting up to 8 inches or more, 200 millimeters. Taipei there only getting to 2 inches, 50 millimeters. But look what happens out at sea there, 60 inches on that forecast right there, in 1 or 2 spots where the storm stays out at sea. That's not affecting any land areas though, but we are looking at moderate to locally high amounts in elevated regions. Longer range, day 5 through 10, the GFS is still content here on the storm stalling for a bit and then zigzagging back westwards for a Taiwanese landfall round about the 4th of June there, and then gradual movement northeastwards, hovers over the island for quite a bit, and to be honest with you, an extremely large eye there, maybe another eye roll replacement cycle by the time it gets there, but there it is, there's another one, and almost the whole of Taiwan underneath that eye. That really would be a sight to behold, but could be very dangerous. That's the serious stuff done. Scan the barcode and take a look at the Force 13 merch store, where we have all of our usual items and maybe a few more on the way. Stay tuned, and are still waiting for a Hone t-shirt. It's still as great as ever because we still haven't seen that thing yet. In the Scilly range, we keep looking at Mawar, continuing northeastwards eventually by the 7th of June, non-tropical by this point, and then it will affect the coast of Japan. Now this is just one scenario. There's still a school of thought that it might persist straight into the South China Sea. That's looking less likely now. Some model ensembles more onto the thought of a full recurvature rather than that stalling motion, and for it moving sailing south of Japan. But this scenario here has that happening anyway, much later on though, as a weaker system. You can discuss this and anything else in the wide world of tropics and beyond on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13, for chat with over 3,000 other weather watchers from around the world. We also have general discussion topics there as well. On this day in 2011, a completely different scenario was in play. Another Category 5, this time in the form of Typhoon Songda, which was peaking, or just about to move off its peak now, just east of the northern part of Luzon, the Cagayan province, not far from Santa Ana. There it was, giving it an uncomfortably close call as it was moving northwestwards on this day. 12 years ago now since 2011, would you believe? And there it was, probably delivering tropical storm force winds to the eastern coast of Luzon. Back to this year, and the first name on the Atlantic naming list will be Arlene. In the Eastern Pacific, Adrian, and in the Central Pacific, we are still looking out for Hone. Models show that neither of these three look likely to form in the next 16 days. In the Western Pacific, next up now is Guchol. I remember tracking that one in 2012, strong category 4. And in the North Indian Ocean, the next name is Biparjoy. Of course, after Mocha, which we saw a couple of weeks ago, another very powerful storm. 2 in a row, you could say, for the Northern Hemisphere so far this year. In the Australian region, next up is Jasper, Southwest Indian Ocean, Gezani, and in the South Pacific, it's Lola. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll of course be back again tomorrow night.